All right, Coach, obviously it was a tough result the other night in Manhattan. What was your biggest takeaway from that game?
My biggest takeaway is we have to execute a lot better, and we have to be more composed. I didn't think we had our composure to start the game. We let them get off to a big run, and that established them with a lot of momentum early, and we were fighting uphill the rest of the way. We have to be more composed in those situations, and we have to just execute our defense and offense better so that we're not in situations where we're fighting uphill the entire time.
Johnny, when you look at a team like Kansas and what they've been able to do, what stands out to you about that program and what they've looked like so far this season?
Well, great team, great program, storied program, and of course Coach Self, Hall of Famer, has done an amazing job with his group the entire time he's been there. Of course, we have a lot of respect for who they are and what they do, and so we're looking forward to competing. And as always, our guys are preparing because they're our next opponent. We prepare the same way for everyone. That means we give it max effort in our practices, and we're learning, the system that we're going to have to play to be successful.
Speaking on the game, there were a couple plays where passes just went out of bounds, shots weren't going down. Do you feel like the moment got too big for your guys, or what was going on in those situations?
Like I said, we didn't stay composed, kind of similar to what you're saying, and that's important. That's maturity, and that's also, being in those situations. That environment was terrific, and when you're in that environment, there's a learning curve for that. You have to get comfortable in understanding what you're doing. Your communication has to be at an elite level, and guys have to be poised out there. You can't let the crowd and all the energy in the building speed you up. I thought we got sped up based on everything that was going on in the arena, and so we'll learn that lesson and we'll grow from it.
There were a couple times where you made a run. What did you like from that game?
Well, I always like the same thing. I thought our guys kept competing. I don't think the score showed the fight that our guys had. Just that when we got down by the margin we did, I think our guys started trying to get us back. They thought we don't have no 10-point play, 15-point play in basketball. I thought we kind of broke down to individual basketball. That's not who we've been all year. We've moved the ball, shared it, and so we got out of character because of having that deficit during that time of the game.
Jalen Sillers has obviously been such an offensive weapon the entire season. What does he need to do to get going? Obviously, he kind of struggled a little bit in this last game.
We need to learn from the game that we just played. He's a marked man now, and that's a role that he's in, and it's a great role. But there's a learning curve for that as well. You have to learn, okay, what do I have to do to be successful in these moments? He and I are watching tape, showing him things that he's capable of doing on the floor. Letting the game come to you is a big part of it. You have to be patient in those situations. And basically just understanding that you are a good player. You're in that position for a reason. They're guarding you hard in certain situations for a reason, and then just grow into your role, which he's doing.
Johnny, you've been coached and played in big games. You obviously know what the atmosphere can be like. It's going to be a sellout crowd. What is your message to the team? How do you keep the team from maybe getting too caught up in all that emotion that's going to happen maybe Wednesday night?
Well, we have to stay grounded. I've talked to our guys about that in my own way of staying grounded, understanding, great opportunity. You're playing against a storied program, storied coach, and you want to just stay, in the moment and not make it bigger, bigger than it can be. And I think when you're looking at teams like that, like you're saying, everyone builds up the crowd, everyone builds up the opponent you're playing. Our guys have to stay grounded, understand it's still going to be about the same thing every game is about during the year. It's execution.
But to the kind of point of the atmosphere, how important is the atmosphere going to be that you build here when you're bringing these type of opponents in and your crowd is kind of feeding into your guys as well?
Great question. On our end, it's terrific. We're excited to kind of, do the same thing that we faced this weekend, where our crowd is going to be raucous. They're going to be, a full house, sellout crowd. Of course, we're excited about that. And for our guys, when you're a competitor and you're a player, you want to be in atmospheres like that. And when you're at home and you can have that, what an advantage, to have everyone in the arena on our side, or most of the people in the arena on our side. It's a great feeling. We're excited about it. And we can establish a great tradition when we're doing things like that with our community as well.
Obviously, tough loss. But how are you preparing to bounce back, and how is your team prepping for the upcoming game against Kansas?
Well, of course, it's very disappointing. We didn't have the outcome that we wanted. It was a tough road, loss for us. But we have to learn from it and get better. We have 18 games in the Big 12. We've played one. And did we put our best foot forward? No. But we know we can. The one thing that I love about our group is that we believe, and we still believe. And so for us, you have to take a next play mentality, go into that game with the right mindset, prepare, understand what we have to do to execute to be successful.
Kansas is obviously one of the storied programs in college basketball. Top team this year, number 2 in the country. They were in a dogfight the other day against TCU. Just what do you know about this year's roster? What kind of stands out to you about this Kansas Jayhawk basketball team?
Talented basketball team. A lot of players that can make plays on the perimeter and on the interior. They do a really good job of executing in the half court offensively, and they're sound defensively.
Johnny, basketball's obviously a game of runs. Sometimes, how do you guys manage to kind of avoid getting in a situation where if Kansas runs off 8-10 points, maybe you guys survive some of their early runs so you guys can maybe come back and have your own?
Is what I said about the K-State game, composure. You have to stay composed. Teams are going to make runs, and we're going to make runs. But what you don't want them to do is have extended runs like we did the other night. You want to be able to stymie at that point where it's manageable to still accomplish your goal. And so for us, learning from that last game is how do we stop these runs? We have to execute better offensively to make sure we're searching out a great shot and not taking what we think is a good shot. Defensively, making sure that we understand what the game plan is and locking in on things that we're trying to take away from the team, not giving them their strengths, making them play to their weaknesses as much as we can.
What do you hope that Darius Johnson learned from that first time in the Big 12? Obviously, an important piece for you. It wasn't the greatest outcome for him, the 5 turnovers fouled out.
Absolutely, and we have to help him more in those situations. Again, his comes from a good place. I mean, when you're struggling offensively, you're trying to find ways to get into the paint and create. So he takes it upon himself to do some of those things. And so his doesn't come from a bad place. It's just that he needs to pick his spots better and needs to trust his teammates more. Like I said, there's no 10 or 15-point plays. We all have to work together to create that opportunity to score the basketball. And sometimes he's good enough to get downhill because he's a strong driver to either get fouled or make a play. Now at the level we're playing, defense is going to collapse. They're going to clog up the lane, and so it's not going to be there as readily as it has been before. So you have definitely got to connect with your teammates more in those situations.
The team's identity being defense and hard basketball. Were you pleased with how the defense played, and do you feel like the environment got too much for them?
No, I don't think we defended nowhere near the way we've been defending all season long, and that was disappointing. No, I don't think they felt our pressure. I don't think they felt the way we want to defend, and we have to do a better job of that. And we talked to our players about that after the game and when we watched film about that's our identity. And the one thing we can never lose in any game is our identity. And so everything we're working on right now in preparation is getting back to playing UCF basketball, playing fast, defending hard. And our guys, they're practicing, a lot of energy. They're practicing spirited. They're competing, all the things that we need to do to move forward.
Johnny, you saw this when you worked with Coach K at Duke. Being the blue chip, being the hunted, obviously that's what Kansas is under Bill Self. How difficult is it to, year in, year out, always have that target on your back and yet still come up with the seasons and the success that they've had?
Oh, absolutely. The thing about being a blue blood in a program like Kansas is this. You're going to get everyone's best shot every single night. Now that can work for you because you have to always be prepared. You don't have any night that you go in the game where young people are going to give you less than their best. That means you always have to be at your best. So that you learn to consistently do well. The thing that's phenomenal about teams like Kansas and Duke, of course, is that you look at the sustained excellence they've had, the decades of excellence they've had. Like, it's one thing to get there. Like, you see teams all the time who will get there, become great tournament run or get to the tournament, but they've been able to sustain that for decades, which is remarkable. And that's what a blue blood program does, is it's the consistency of high standards and winning success, more so than just getting there, every now and then.
Do you know Bill Self? Is there a relationship there? Have you crossed paths?
Yeah, I know Bill. Of course, we've been in the business a long time together. Really good man, great competitor. He's done a great job at Kansas ever since he's been there.
All set?
Appreciate it.
Actually, one more question, I'm sorry. You mentioned staying grounded as being a key. Is that kind of go hand in hand with making sure your guys don't lose to the brand, the flashy, the Jayhawk, all the tradition and everything like that? Can teams lose to a brand if they're not mentally prepared?
They lose to brands all the time. And it's important for our guys to understand we're playing the players that are in front of us, not the players that played last year, 5, 10 years ago. Because of the storied history of that program, you just run down the list of players that they've had. You know, you're playing the players you see today in front of you, and that's very important to always stay in that moment and not get caught up in all the successes they've had in past.
All set? All right,
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Good luck.
guys. All right, thank you, guys.